All right, so I've been getting a lot of people asking lately about my production. The production of everything that I use and everything how I do my videos. So first things first, right off the bat, your tuning of your drums is about 70 to 80% of it, in my opinion. If your drums sound bad and dead, your recording is gonna sound dead. So first things first, good new heads, which I can't replace my heads every time I do videos, but they last about 3 months until I switch them out. So good heads right off the top. We're using Evans G1s on the batter side and G1s on the reso. So it's the same head on both sides for that evenness. They're tuned in minor thirds, so the top head is lower than the resonant head. Then we're using the SE Arena microphones, the kit, and then we're using a V7 Chrome snare mic, and then for the top, even though that's not what that mic's made for, but I think it sounds better than the V7X on top, and then the V7X is on the bottom. Now, how I aim them is, maybe you can see this, that it's aimed at the center of the head, but just a hair behind it, so about right here on each drum. That's where the center is aimed to. This one I bumped when I was tearing down GoPros, but aim it to the center of the head. That's where you're going to get your attack and your tone. So each one of these is aimed like that. The floor tom, I aim about middle between the head and the rim, or between the middle and the rim. I aim at about middle between the center and edge. Right now, I'm running it. It's basically all the way in the drum, right past the edge of the head, and it's that mic. It's the Arena kick mic. I have it basically right inside the head, aimed at, I aim it where the beaters strike the drum, and that's where I get a lot of my attack from, is because I've aimed the mic where the attack's coming from. But you'll adjust it to your own taste. The better the raw sound is coming in off the mics before you EQ or compress anything, the better it's gonna sound in the final product. And the less work you're gonna have to do as well. So that's the microphones. Those are running into a Tascam 1608. Let's go over there. All right, so we're here at the interface, the Tascam 1608. I'm using 10 channels across the front, and I believe I've got one channel in the back being used. Yes, I have one channel in the back, so it's 16 inputs, 8 XLRs, 8/4 inches. I need to get something better, but this is what I've been using since I've started. Cables don't really matter to me. I don't hear a difference in a Mugami versus a Shure cable, so that's running into Studio 1.6 Professional. And then when I get home, I'll try to screen record what's going on the computer. This is where people that like really do production are gonna tell me I'm doing it wrong, but as long as it sounds good, who cares? Oh, and cameras, what I'm using for cameras. Every now and then I'll break out a Canon T6, and then I don't even end up using the footage. But I am using right now, this is a GoPro 10. I also use a GoPro 7 to this day. I still am using a 7. They're bulletproof. And then I also use a GoPro Max. We're at the house now where we can look at our session. You know, you've got kick drum, yes, 2 kick drum tracks, not 4 separate kick drums, but there's a reason for that we'll get into here in a little bit. Snare top, snare bottom, hats, all the toms, and then our 2 overheads. So we're going to just shrink these. We're going to get rid of these because we're going to talk about the organization of a track. Like, as you can see, my tom tracks are completely just, they're chopped. And what this does is this cleans up the mix all over. It keeps the mix, it keeps the mix nice and clean. And I'm going to show you, like at the beginning, before anyone wonders, these things here, these have a purpose, because if we zoom in here, this is how we fix our phase. We have to drag all these tracks back and make sure they're all hitting at the same time. So everything, like, it'll fix your snare from sounding really weak and make it really powerful. But the 2 kick drum tracks, let's take a look at these real quick. The reason I have 2 separate tracks is when you get into something like this, that can overpower a mix when it's compressed and set up like the main kick drum track. So separating it and adjusting the EQ and compression slightly different. And if you can notice, the volume is a little different from track to track. Let me show you a little close up here. As you can see, our main kick is at -0.5 and the fast double kick is at -4.2. So there's a big difference there in volume, but when you're listening to it, you don't hear that. It sounds about the same. So it's just to help your mix clean up so you don't have things that are louder than others. And yeah, so all right, now to the kick drums, or sorry, not the kick drums, the toms, why they're chopped. And the best way I can tell you why I do this is I'm going to open up this floor tom track here and we'll solo it, and we'll solo the other toms on top of it. Like, you can hear how clean it is. But when it gets to that floor tom, you hear the kick drum and everything just bleeding through. And that floor tom just rattling out like that really does affect the mix in a negative way. So my brother, who was giving me pointers when I started doing these drum videos on how to record drums properly, told me it takes more time, but do this to your drum tracks and it makes things a lot cleaner. You're not going to have all that noise coming through, and it's less stuff you have to gate. I still gate all my toms, but that's that. So here we go. Well, the gate is the first thing I put on a kick drum always. You know, this is how bad it sounds soloed out. It's just in the mix, it sounds really good. Yeah. All right, so then after I gate it, I adjust the input gain, which I didn't do very well on this one. I must have forgot to do that. But anyways, then we got I use the IDX Intelligent Dynamics. And then from there, I have a TR5 classic compressor, and I have it, kind of I would say, this knob here, slow, but it's still fast. So basically the attack hits, and then it'll compress up everything else. And I have it cranked. And then we go to this guy here. We have a high pass set at about 60. Little bit here for the click, little bit here just for the attack, and nothing really going on here. We've heavily scooped this area out from 800s. That's going to hit from about 3 to 1. We've scooped that out, and then just on the tail end of it, I've got this doing a lot more, so you can visually see the high end boost and all this here, and it works in the context of the mix. And this is, like I said, and this is where people are going to be like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. And I really don't care. I have to do it all myself, and this is where I'm at in my journey. But yeah, the secondary kick track is about the same, a little different on the compression. I got to go in and make sure these are better next time. I don't know why I did that. But anyways, snare, I have the main gate off. I used to run this, then I realized, I'm choking my snare drum out. But then, we get to the Saxon channel, which is where we're adjusting our input, how loud things are going to be, which, again, I dropped the ball on this. I don't know how this mix turned out so good with these things I'm seeing now. But, straight to this, where we also have another gate just working, allowing a little bit more of the ghost notes to come out, but it's still chopping up a little bit. Then we've got another EQ, but the EQ I'm using here is a lot of 8K. Then stick attack. Then we're scooping out a little bit of the honkiness of the snare, and then a big boost at 200. That's going to allow your high end to really crack and your low end to really pop. And then it's about the same on this channel, so we're going to skip over that. Hi-hats. Just there's a heavy scoop. I don't know why I have a... Oh, wait. Yeah, here we are. This one, it looks like I actually adjusted. And then we got this going here. We've got a pretty heavy scoop, high pass going on. I don't know proper terminologies and stuff. I just do it. All right. Another important thing is for your bottom EQ, you got to make sure you flip that phase. That's very important. But yeah, back over to here, you know, here, you know, bass reduction, high pass. We've boosted this range just to carry some of the meat of the hi-hats, the low end of the hi-hats, but as well as, you know, my green knob here for the high mid, that's going to be for your stick attack and then your presence kind of thing. I try to explain things to where someone new can understand this stuff. And then we've got this at the very tail end. We've got the, this is new, so... Yeah, the Universal Audio 1176 FET compressor. This thing is great for a lot of things. So, and that's just making the hi-hat nice and crisp. And after this session, I've fixed a lot of the stuff you're seeing now. But I don't care. I'm going to get attacked regardless. So you'll love it. All right, so on the toms, it's the same thing. We have a gate going. Then we have the Satson channel adjusting input gain, which I totally dropped the ball on this mix. Another one of these classic compressors and an EQ at the end. And you can kind of see what's going on here. We've scooped out a lot of the honkiness and the bonging, the bong that toms tend to have. And again, this is all cleaned up later on by me, well, let's see, by chopping everything down. So you can kind of hear the toms soloed here. Well, with the hi-hat. But you get the point. And all the toms kind of have their own EQs going on. Some people worry about what this all looks like, but I adjust it for what sounds good to me, and that's how it works. And then, you know, with the EQs, for the overhead channels, this is my left. You know, I have a slight, sometimes depending on the mix or how hard I'm playing, I'll turn that one off and bring that up and just have it nice and even. Same goes for the right channel. Like, I have a slight boost here to pick this area back up just a little bit and a drop there. And then, you know, everything else is really just the mix. All right, now we're going to look at effects, like what is going on. So in the kick drum channel right here, this is actually this. And this is the bass channel. Let's see here. So if you'll notice, every time the kick drum hits, this is going up. And what's that is doing is that's bringing the bass guitar down in the mix. So ever so quickly, you can't even tell when the bass drum hits, the bass guitar will get out of the way to let the bass drum come through the mix without affecting it. Let me try to find something, an area with bass in it, so you can kind of get an idea. Like, I could really... So, I mean, it ducks itself out of the way. So that's what's going on there. That's that first thing here. And then effects. Effects 1. What that is if we go over here, that is a reverb. And because I don't have the microphones or the channels for a room mic, I kind of artificially make a room. So if you listen to the snare drum soloed out, it's kind of dry. It doesn't sound very lively. So if we unmute the effects channel, it sounds like you're in a room now. So with the reverb, without the reverb. So that reverb, while it does sound like it's too much right there in the context of the whole mix, well, I'm going to mute the vocals just to avoid copyright crap. There we go. So as you hear that the reverb does not overpower when the whole mix is going on. So you always have to adjust things like that in the mix, not soloed out, or it won't be enough. Like I said, tom tracks are cut and clipped. So as you can see, the snare drum, the toms, I don't have a lot in there. I have just enough to add a little bit of edge. The overhead mics have quite a lot of reverb on them because that's capturing everything, so they need a little bit more reverb. But I've got a little bit of reverb on the kick drums. We don't want too much on there, but quite a lot on the top snare, little less on the bottom snare. The hats have a good bit, and then not much on the toms because I want them to sound really pure and really powerful. I don't want them getting washed out by the room. So that's basically what's going on in the mix. And then obviously the kick drums are panned center. They're not over to the sides. Snare drum is center, bottom snare is center. I know that's not how it's in the popular recording world is how it's done, but my hi-hats, I have those kind of sitting off to the left a little bit. And then from, my 4 toms, it's going kind of left, not as much left, right, and then a little farther right. So it kind of, when you're listening to it, the toms will pan through the speakers going from left to right. All right, other than that, over here in the master chain, we have this plug-in again, but we don't have it being used as a side chain. We have it used as being just an entry into everything coming to one. And it's basically stopping those transient peaks from getting out of control. It's kind of taming them down a little bit. And then we're going into a white 2A T-Rex. I actually have the universal audio of this one, I believe, and I just haven't updated everything. But what this is doing is this is also now starting to get a little more of the peaks that are coming through, but this one isn't a compressor. This is going to be a limiter. So you notice I try not to let this go above 1 very often, and if it gets to 2, I have to turn it down. So this one is used now to start crushing everything down, to get it ready for the stealth limiter. So you can see the yellow here is bringing everything down. So we got about 3 to 4 dBs of reduction going on. Then I've got my EQ kind of going on here. So a big boost along a lot of the high end, and then a little boost here in the lows. So after that, we go into, again, T-Rex Stealth Limiter. This is where this thing is going to crush the mix down. And I have it set for balanced, so it doesn't, you can't notice it's really being crushed. And this is where everything's going to get louder. So this is where it would be before this. And this is kind of my recording process. I know by the standards of the real world and how things work, this is all completely wrong. I'm probably going to get chewed out by everybody, and I don't care. So here it is. I hope it helps you guys. You guys take it easy.